Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. It is Thursday, February 9th, the year of our Lord 2023. Tax time. So they tell us. Remember, the IRS is always telling us to hurry, but now they're telling us to hurry up and wait. That's what we're going to talk about today. Won't you join us? Yeah, well, the IRS is always telling us to get it done early. Get it. You got to get your taxes done early. You got to get it in. You want to get your refund. Well, today they actually a couple of days ago they came out with a report or a news statement that says, "Hey, wait, because some states gave away a rebate on their state taxes." And so it becomes, well, are those taxable or aren't they taxable? And they've only had a year to figure it out, and they haven't figured it out. And so the IRS is telling people to hold on, don't file your tax return until we figure that out. I don't think Illinois is one of them. Did we get it? I think we may have. We'll figure that out. I think we did get a rebate, didn't we? But, this is all have to do with COVID, because so many states received so much COVID money that they had a surplus. And then rather than spend all the money, which is what they do anyway, they gave some back to their constituents. It's a novel idea. But let's go to the story, and we'll see if Illinois is one of them. I should have looked that up before that. I vaguely remember that we got. Usually Illinois isn't giving money back, right? They're taking it away from us. So let's go to the. Let us go to the story. This is the IRS statement. The IRS is aware of questions involving special tax refunds or payments made by states in 2022. We are working with state officials as quickly as possible to provide additional information and clarity for taxpayers. There are a variety of state programs that distributed these payments in 2022, and the rules surrounding them are complex. Go figure. We expect to provide additional clarity for as many states and taxpayers as possible next week. Not now, next week. For taxpayers uncertain about the taxability of their state payments, the IRS recommends they wait until additional guidance is available or consult with a reputable tax professional. Well, if the IRS doesn't know, how is a reputable tax professional going to know? The answer is they're not going to know until the IRS comes up with guidance. For taxpayers and tax preparers with questions, the best course of action is to wait until additional clarification on state payments rather than calling the IRS. Don't call us. We don't answer your phone anyway. So don't call us. There's no answers here. We also do not recommend amending any previously filed 2022 return. That's what causes all these problems, right? Is that a lot of these, that's why we have such a backlog, because in 2020, a lot of these tax returns had to go back. In 2021, same thing. They had to go back because the Congress had changed some of the rules retroactively, and they had to go back and change some of the rules and change tax returns, and that caused a big backlog. And that's we're still fighting that backlog today, even though they did promise us. The IRS, promised us it would be done by the beginning of this tax season, but actually they said by the first of the year, but it wasn't done by the first year. And now tax season, it's not done by tax season. So there's still a big backlog, and they don't want more backlogs by having amended tax returns. That takes up all their resources, so they don't want you to do that. So let's look at there's a bunch of articles about this. If you go on lots of news reports, the IRS tells people to wait. So let's make sure I give this person credit. The IRS Fails at the Basics by Dominic Pino. Is it too much to ask the IRS to clarify what people will be taxed on? No, it's not too much. 22 states sent residents tax rebates of some kind last year, do these rebates increase your income tax liability? The IRS isn't sure. The Federal Tax Collection Agency didn't say anything about whether it was intending to collect taxes on the state tax rebates from 2022 until February 3rd, 2023. That's the statement I just read to you. At which point it said, there are a variety of state programs that distributed these payments in 2022, and the rules surrounding them are complex. I guess he's jarring them for that too, as I just did. But be that as it may, the IRS has had all of last year to get in touch with state revenue departments and figure this issue out. Now, it's saying that people who received rebates shouldn't file early since they might need to amend their returns depending on how the IRS decides to tax them. Jared Wolziak, not sure if that's how you pronounce your name, sorry about that, describes the differential problem the agency faces in a tax blog for the Tax Foundation. The Federal Internal Revenue Code begins with a definition of income that includes all income from whatever source derived, including from state tax governments, but there are exceptions. That didn't read well. That is that 16th Amendment, right? That Congress can levy a tax for all income from whatever source derived. Three are potentially relevant in determining the taxability of state rebate taxes. Qualified disaster relief payments are not taxable, even if made through the tax code. The COVID-19 pandemic qualifies. An emergency declaration was issued for the pandemic in March of 2020 and is still in effect. Will it ever go away? If the IRS construes a state's tax rebates as a pandemic response, those rebates would not be subject to federal income tax. The general welfare doctrine establishes that social benefit programs are excluded from definition of gross income. From an economist's point of view, food and housing assistance for low-income families are income, but from a tax collector's point of view, they are not. This applies to social benefit programs run through the tax code as well. So a rebate narrowly tailored to assist specific populations may be excluded from federal taxation under this doctrine. 3. If a taxpayer received no federal tax benefit because of the transfer, then the rebate may not be taxable. That's what I love about tax law. It's so clear, right? It's so black and white. No, it isn't. Back in 2021, when a handful of states offered rebates, it was easier to frame them as pandemic aid. In 2022, however, a few of these states were framed as assistance to mitigate pandemic-era disruptions, at least directly. More often than they were tied to inflation relief, or simply offered as a way to return some of the state's large surpluses to taxpayers. What states said, moreover, is not the end of the story. The framing might factor into the IRS's determinations, but ultimately federal officials will have to weigh the facts and circumstances of each state. This definitional question is entirely in the IRS's hands. It's not a question of outdated technology. It's not a question of insufficient staff for tax enforcement. It's not a question of taxpayers dodging their tax liability. It's a simple yes or no question of whether a form of income that millions of Americans received last year will count against them on a federal tax returns. It's unfair to taxpayers that we're more than a week into February and we still don't know what millions of them are supposed to put on their federal tax returns. This could have been and should have been avoided. I agree. Should have been avoided. Where were last year's state payments taxable? Taxpayers wait while the IRS decides. So let's do a little research. What are the 22? Should we do this live? I'm going to go to Google. Don't always use Google. I use DuckDuckGo. Sometimes go to Google. What are the 22 states with a rebate in 2022? Oops, that's 2033, 2022. You think that's going to work? Let's see if here's this CBS News. Do they have state stimulus checks in 2023? Illinois is another state that offered 2 tax rebates in 2022, one for income taxes and one for property taxes. So there you go. So there we go. Yes, Illinois had. I thought I had came to mind. So there we go. That's the IRS. Illinois is one of the states. The IRS has told us to wait to file. Don't file right away because we don't know what's going to happen with those rebates. You're going to have to pay taxes on them, maybe. Usually, when the government does something wrong, or when it's going to make them look bad to tax you, and now it's all over the news, they'll find a reason not to do it. And that's what we're hoping for, that the IRS just comes out and says, well, those were rebates and they're not going to be taxable. Again, they could have done that last year. They all got together. This is what happened with unemployment insurance in 2020, right? Because everybody's getting these checks from unemployment insurance, and then they said, because usually those are taxable, and that's one of the things that happened. They had to go back and refund a lot of people had filed their tax returns already when Congress decided not to make it taxable, and so the IRS on its own initiative had to go back and redo everybody's tax return, and that was a big driver of the backlog, of what drove that backlog and why they're behind even today. So that's the story. Thanks so much for joining us. Tomorrow is Friday. I'll be here about 2:00 tomorrow. Have a guest on my the Law Library show, the Trust Radio Network. Attorney John Foran. We're going to talk about eminent domain and his background. He's a great attorney here in Chicago. You won't want to miss that show. We're going to do it live tomorrow, about 2:00 in the afternoon. Wherever you catch this show, you can catch it live. Again, John Foran. So join us there tomorrow. I hope you could do that. Remember, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. We need you to like and subscribe. I need to get this information out, and I need your help to do it. So like and subscribe. And remember, if you have a tax problem, if you owe the IRS money, if you have unfiled tax returns and you don't know what to do, you should go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. Get your copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. I will pay for the publishing. I will ask you to pay for the shipping and handling, but it's under $10, so go get that. We have a tax workshop coming up. The workshop, go to fightbacknow.com and start fighting back against the IRS and their taxes. So go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for the free tax workshop coming up next Thursday. It's like every Thursday, so next Thursday. So join us tomorrow for Attorney John Foran, or next Monday we'll see you here on today's Tax Talk. Thanks so much for joining us, and God bless you. And we are now out.